Good evening. Welcome to the Perrysburg City Council meeting for July 6, 2021. With the clerk of council, please call the roll.
Ms. Bourne?
Here.
Mr. Coleman?
Here.
Ms. Matroni? Here. Mr. McCarthy?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Van Duzen?
Here.
Mr. Webb?
Here. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome, last meeting, we wished Dave well as he did the last roll call, and we want to wish Amber well after she gets to the first one. If you're able, please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. President of Council, the minutes of council meeting for June 15, 2021.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have our meeting minutes as well as our committee of the whole meeting minutes. I know that there was an objection that that everything seems to be okay at this point. So I am going to go ahead and make the motion to approve of the minutes of the City Council Committee of the whole meeting held on June 15th and the meeting minutes of the City Council meeting held on June 15th as well as written and dispense with their reading.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Duzen?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes. Thank you very much. Special reports. There are no special reports. Letters, communications, citizen concerns. If there's any citizen who has a concern, would you please come up?
I do, sir.
Oh, there's actually two. So please state your name and address.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Pat, Jan Cassidy, 862 Louisiana Avenue. We've been there for 26 years. Two things, and I'll talk through the first one. I've had an issue with our storm sewer. The concrete around it has been busted up for 4 years. I have been in touch with members of the administration for 4 years. It's still not fixed. Last March, right before the pandemic began, I actually walked up here and talked to Elaine Panturno and asked her, is there somebody I can talk to? Give me a name of somebody. She gave me the name of Matt Coma. And since March, I have been talking to Matt. Matt has come out, looked at it, said, yes, this needs to be repaired. That was 16 months ago, folks. I get that the pandemic and things were kind of messed up last spring and into early summer. But I'm coming to this group because I don't know what else to do. And I left a message with the administration. Everything's been closed or was closed at the end of last year over the phone. Asked to get a call back, didn't get a call back. So I called your office, and I got a female message that said, please leave a message and we'll get back to you. And I haven't heard anything. So when I talked to Matt, I've talked to Matt probably every 3 to 4 weeks since last March. And second to last communication I had with Matt was in mid-May, and he assured me we have a contractor that's going to be out, and we'll fix that the very last week of May, right after Memorial Day. Well, that came and went, and that was now 5 weeks ago. Matt has told me that this is a small project for the city, but it's very expensive because they have to shut down part of Louisiana Avenue, and yada, yada. Look, I'll fix it myself if somebody wants to give me relief. It'll take me an hour. I want some help, and so I'm coming to the council asking. Yeah, I just pulled. We had a bunch of people come over, and I pulled a chunk of concrete that was 6 inches by 4 inches by 3 inches deep, because this has just been going on now for 4 years. I mean, I think enough's enough. So, asking for help if there's anybody that can help and follow this through, because obviously I'm not doing a very good job.
All right, well, I have not heard it. I have not got a message from you. And I apologize for that. If you did leave a message, I didn't get it. I will follow up with Matt. This is something that's within the administration's purview. It is one of those, it is expensive, usually the type of drain that's there. But if he told you it was going to get done, it should have gotten done. So I will, because we have a lot of issues sometimes with contractors and also mandating them to do particular work because the supply chain is pretty screwed up as far as things go these days. But that's not, that is a big excuse, especially when we told you. So let me follow up. I assume we have your phone number, because Matt will have your phone number, and we will follow up this week.
I just talked to Matt again today, so Matt has my phone
I will
number.
follow up with Matt.
I appreciate the supply chain issues, and that's, that's what's been going on now, but that doesn't work for 4 years ago or even a year ago.
Well, I understand 4 years ago, last year we weren't having people do certain types of work like that because of the pandemic and the proximity that they would be with each other. So some of that work was postponed because they would have to be in the same hole together, and that we were trying to keep social distance to protect staff and that. But that should have been conveyed to you.
Yeah, no, Matt.
That should have, so I will speak to our team and we will address that. And I apologize for him saying that it was going to get done and it hasn't gotten done. That's
Yeah.
certainly a fair question, and we'll follow up. And if we say we're going to get it done, we'll get it done. Otherwise, we will tell you why it's not getting done.
Well, this was going to get done late last summer, early in the fall. So, again, this has been just ongoing.
I'm not disagreeing with that, and we're going to have a discussion about communication with our residents. So.
Yeah, so second question, it's really just around who manages or who makes recommendations with traffic flow. So, oh gosh, it was 10, 15 years ago, there used to be a light on 7th Street, 7th in Louisiana, and there was good communication, hey, we're going to trial taking this down, made good sense at the time. But I think what's happened in with the growth of the city and certainly with the growth of things downtown, we just see a constant flow of traffic coming. And if you think about it, from Indiana Avenue headed south to South Boundary, that's 3/4 of a mile. And I've been in touch with Officer Cunningham and the police about, they got people going 55, 60 miles an hour going down the street. They've put up a speed sign so at least people realize how fast they're going. But I'm asking, the council, who or what group takes a look at traffic flow and just making sure the traffic gets metered. There has been times, my neighbors, we've talked about this, where if it's busy, it's 5 minutes until we get out of our driveways.
That is also the purview of the administration, and it sounds like you've been talking to Officer Cunningham and the police department. Speeding, as you probably can guess, is an issue throughout the community, and it isn't necessarily people visiting our community, unfortunately. It is us who are speeding the most in Perrysburg. It's our and so we have a number of issues regarding speed, but I would agree. I was on council when the decision was made to take that light out at 7th Street, and it did make sense, but
Sure.
I was also driving on yours in Louisiana this weekend twice, and I was going pretty much the speed limit, and people were lined up behind me like a parade.
Yeah.
So I will convey that it is a city controlled street, and there's what's called warrants though from ODOT regarding speed, and it really is probably properly marked as the proper speed, but it's an enforcement question, and it is a big issue throughout the community. So, but I will again relay your concerns to Chief Jones, and we will try and slow the traffic down there, because it is a street that's supposed to be used for connectivity, but it is not. It narrows there, and it should be slower. So I definitely understand your legitimate concern about that, and I will pass it on to Chief Jones.
Sure. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I speak on
Yeah.
that intersection? I recently brought this up to our administrator about the corner of Louisiana and 7th, because my wife and I walk our grandchildren there, cross that school crossing there every morning
I see you.
during the school year. Yes, okay, and I was talking to Carson, we need that to be a schools, I really think we need a school zone speed limit in there, and just at that intersection during those critical hours. We've crossed, and even though the crossing guard goes out, people come to a screeching halt sometimes. They're going so fast, they're on their way to work, they're looking down at their phones, who knows what.
Yep.
And so Ms. Cabot has been looking into this for me and checking with our engineer. and the school, and what possibility of getting at least get a school zone speed limit as 20 mile-an-hour school. So just wanted to let you know I've been
Thank
talking
you.
about this too, because I'm very
Good.
much aware of that intersection.
Yeah, I can tell you, and speaking with several residents on Louisiana Avenue, we're not the only ones that have the concern. And Officer Cunningham has been just wonderful to talk to and listens and understands and has passed our concerns on, so.
I have a quick question. I didn't hear your first statement because I don't know if it's a speaker or your head was turned or whatever, but I didn't hear what you said in the beginning. What was, whatever.
Sewer.
Sewer.
Yeah, that's-
Storm sewer?
Yeah, storm sewer.
Storm sewer at the end, it's actually at the end of my neighbor's driveway. Our driveway's butt up against the tree.
I did hear it. I was trying to figure out what, catch basin, okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
And it
then-
goes pretty deep, but it is old, and I know exactly where it comes from.
Yeah, that was all redone when they redid Louisiana. Goes back to my baseball coaching days, 2009, 2010. Yeah, it's probably been 10, 11 years ago, but
Well, we will, I apologize for making promises that we haven't delivered on, but we will work on that, and then we'll talk about the enforcement issue.
And then the last issue is still another Louisiana Avenue issue. It's Louisiana Avenue and South Boundary. When you're headed south on Louisiana and you're trying to make that left turn, there's no left turn lane, and sometimes traffic just, I mean, we're lucky if you
You
get
get
one,
one
maybe
car.
two sometimes when it's
And
busy.
again, just, I don't know who the traffic engineer is.
Yeah.
We live it every day. Try going left during the
School
junior high.
pickup,
when the
school
junior-
drop off, yeah.
So,
Anytime then.
Yes.
5
I
o'clock.
know exactly what you're talking about as well. That we have not had a city engineer. We just hired a city engineer last year on his rank of priorities. That is on the list, but hasn't been at the top. But I do, yes, you can only get one car.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I'm happy to help and be on any committee if they want data. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right, so I will pass that on to our city engineer, police department, and to utilities.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Thanks for your time.
Any
Thank
others?
you.
No, I've taken enough. Thanks.
Thank
No,
you.
Thank you very much for coming forward. I appreciate that.
Mr. and Mrs. Kathy, would you just write your name and check in advance so that I can check?
Anyone else? Or-
Thank you. That would be email your phone so that.
It's been a while since I came up here and harassed you guys.
Would you,
Huh?
for the record? would you
Yeah.
say anything?
You can say it, I'll get it
Yeah,
after.
we have, yeah.
Oh, yes. Sarah Weisenberger, 605 West Front Street. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak here on something that I'm very passionate about. I will try and keep it brief, but I did write it down because I don't want to miss any details. Recently, I read it. Mr. Krebs was retiring. He was an excellent city employee. He was always quick to get me information when I requested. He had an unquestionable dedication to the city, and I wish him well in retirement. I read the Messenger Journal. He stated, "The city has $60 million in the bank. The city of Perrysburg is financially very strong and well positioned for the future." He was not exaggerating. In the general fund in the past 15 years, the city has collected $12 million more in citizens' tax dollars than it expended. General fund cash and investments increased $11 million. The general fund balance increased $10 million. Income tax revenue has more than doubled from $9 million to $20 million. At the end of 2020, the city produced a $1.8 million in general fund net income, and a large portion of that ended up in the cash account. On the city's audited financial statements, there's a line titled Basic Utility Services. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's a line item where refuse and recycling falls. In the same 15-year period, the cost of the service increased $400,000, or 48%, which is roughly 3% a year. Compare that to 458% increase in cash, or 31% a year. There are core services that a city provides: police, fire, streets, courts, and refuse collection. When cash is increasing in the millions nearly every year, why are we still keeping the refuse collection in a separate fund? It is a basic utility service. I noted that the administration asked and the council approved placing the levy on the ballot for this basic utility service. I see from the minutes there wasn't even any discussion. Now 2020 was a difficult year for citizens. Many lost their jobs. Many lost their businesses. Many were just afraid of what the world was going to look like in 2021. You guys missed a golden opportunity to provide even the slightest relief to the citizens by not again asking for this levy. I have heard every argument as to why this administration continues to place this levy on the ballot. It was placed on the ballot decades ago because the city was considering privatizing refuse collection. No one is talking about privatizing refuse collection anymore. The city does not need this levy. The levy dates back to roughly 1983. So what? This levy is as old as I am. It doesn't make it any more necessary because of its age. It should be evaluated every year. The city does not need this levy. The cost of recycling is increasing. So what? The city has $14 million sitting in cash. That covers all general fund expenses for 10 months of the year. The city does not need this levy. This levy passes with at least 70% of the vote. So what? I bet if you ask those 70% of people, 95% of those voters have never looked at the city's financials and realized the city was hoarding cash. The city does not need this levy. This is not a left versus right issue. This is not a liberal versus conservative issue. This is not even a Democrat versus Republican issue. It is a right versus a wrong issue. And in 2021, coming out of a rough year for many citizens, the city, which is financially very strong, pockets stuffed and overflowing with cash, is coming to the citizens with its hands out asking for more. This has got to stop. It is wrong on principle, it is wrong on policy, and I respectfully ask the council to reconsider placing this levy on the ballot. Thank you.
Okay. Administrative reports.
Did you want to say? Oh.
Okay. Couple things. First, I hope everybody enjoyed the 4th of July and had a chance to see the city's fireworks presentation on the 3rd. We have received very good reviews, and I spoke to the mayor of Maumee, and he would like to make sure that we continue to going forward to apply the same amount we did this year to the fireworks, and I think that's a pretty good idea, so we're going to recommend that in the budget when that time comes. I'd also like to thank all the administrative team that was involved in making the fireworks happen. If you were at the fort or near the fort or on any road in the city on the 3rd, you saw the street division was involved in a number of aspects of making sure the fireworks were successful, as were, of course, police and fire department. So I want to recognize all those employees who missed time with their family on the holiday to be able to make sure that we were safe and were able to enjoy the fireworks. So I want to point that out. I have no other report. City administrator is not here. Finance director, big chance.
I have nothing to report.
Well, so some things never change. I think very well. The law director.
I have a request of city council.
I am going to go ahead and make a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of pending or imminent court action.
A second.
Discussion, roll call.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Duzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Should be relatively short.
It should be, yeah, we should be back in like 5 minutes.
Guess I'll make a motion to return from executive session.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Duzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
All righty. President of Council report.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 things. One's not on the agenda. Just a reminder, as we all have here, is there's going to be a public hearing prior to the August 17th council meeting. There's going to be 3 of them, one at 6:05, one at 6:10, and 6:20, all regarding a rezoning request, historic district boundaries, and a proposed code amendment on fences, walls, and structural screens, hedges, and tree plantings. So. And then the big item on the agenda here is the conversation that we've been having here for some time regarding the clerk of council and council recorder. For those who are not aware, Dave Krebs, our former finance director, and now our current finance director, Amber, have served in the role of clerk of council. And then our council recorder, Mary Jo, is going to be looking to eventually step down here with a big smile on her face. But we need to find a way to fulfill that role, and we had conversation in the past about separating the clerk of council and creating a separate position. What I am proposing is that we look forward of combining the two together under the clerk of council and creating that to be essentially both to create a more than just a part-time, a typical 20-hour part-time, might be a little bit more than that, to move forward with that. So I know I sent an email out to everyone with a job description. I sent it to the administration. I did not hear anything back from the administration. If the administration has any thoughts on that. But I'd love to hear some input from council members to see where everyone is thinking. My thought process with combining the two is if we separate them, it's going to be hard to bring them back together, or if we hire one person for one thing to grow into a position, that might not be what we might not get the best talent if we don't go in with both. So.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
I have a question, and I don't know if it's thought about it or not, but Amber has obviously been trained to do the clerk of council position by Dave. So I'm wondering if you thought about her.
We can have someone from administration staff continue that role. But my thought is to completely separate it from the administration, to have someone that is solely focused on the clerk of council duties. And I just noticed that for some reason my clerk of council Word document that I opened is blank. And now I gotta figure out what happened to everything I saved. So my thought is that we look at trying to combine the two positions and create a more permanent position, as well as give more hours to hopefully attract the talent. Because from one of the conversations we've had in the past is prior to Mary Jo, there was an attempt to hire someone specifically as recording secretary. And I believe we went through many different individuals to eventually where the city went internally just for the recording secretary portion. So we had more job duties on them. My thought is that we're going to get better quality talent, someone that's going to want to be here and can actually do the job. And I'm going to see if I can try to find mine.
I just forwarded it to you. I forwarded what you forwarded and the head content.
Okay. Then just open it up, but again, this time I open up the
And
content.
then again, would I say asking for you this or you this question? Would this be coming out of the personnel committee, obviously? Then?
So this is what is coming out of the personnel committee at this point. There was a brief conversation at the personnel committee at the last one. Unfortunately, due to my time constraints, I had to leave early. Otherwise, there was no one there to watch my kids. So I wanted to bring this up to discussion as a whole, so we can hopefully come to a decision either at this one or possibly the next council meeting, and once we can have some legislation created to begin moving forward with this position. If we have some thoughts, this is what the discussion is hopefully going to be here tonight. So any thoughts on the job descriptions or anything that I sent out on that?
Well, just a question. So you'd have this position, Amber wouldn't be here. There'd be this clerk of council person.
There'd be a clerk of council person at this point.
And then they'd be a recording secretary. I struggle with this concept. I'm just not sure why we change from our current model and have Amber do it as we have, and then just hire a recording secretary. If we didn't, I understand your concern, but if you don't make it attractive enough, you're not going to get somebody. But
I think everyone's knows the hiring environment is right now.
I know. But I don't really see a place for this position other than attending committee meetings and doing minutes, as Mary Jo does now. And then, sitting at council doing what Dave did for however many years and what Amber is doing tonight. Once I get beyond those duties, I saw your job description. I'm just not seeing enough that would justify. And you gave a proposed wage range. That's fine. But then as you said, the thing you got to talk about office space, computers, all that sort of thing. And I'm just not seeing a role for this individual that we couldn't fill with what we have right now. Have Amber do what Dave did and then hire someone to do what Mary Jo does. And if we can't hire that someone, then yeah, maybe we do have to go to a plan B. But I've never gotten the rest of the story beyond those two core principles. I mean, we talked initially about them almost being like a staff person to council, and I know I had reservations about that. I think others did as well, and I think Jonathan, you maybe even backed away a little bit from that idea. So I'm just not seeing enough to really justify a different position. I'd be inclined to go out and see if there's someone out there. We've had people in the past, I can't remember all the names, who served as our recording secretary. And then it could be something that would, you might find a decent person who would want to do it. It meets their schedule. They have evenings availability in the evenings to do that kind of work. Everyone has computers now, it seems. And they might have an interest in the city, so I'm just having trouble with the idea that this would be a new position that we need to fill.
I know in the past as well, and those in the administration correct me on this if I'm incorrect on this, is that even with the clerk of council, there were duties that was shared within other administrative staff as well when it came to communication, from certifying records, the filing of the records and the documents and so forth. So there's a little bit more that's spread out from just the current clerk, and it would help ease some of the additional workload that's put on within the staff of the finance department. And again, this is nothing against Amber or Mary Jo. It's trying to find the fit as we continue to expand as a city. I've noticed there's many communities across the state of Ohio that have this as a specific separate position due to some of the demands that they're starting to see.
Well, I guess administration has this is council's prerogative. It would be, though, if there was a person doing this, that right now, I have conveyed, and I know council members have heard me saying that, if you want to access and talk to the planning zoning office or the finance department or knock yourself out, where we have nothing to hide here, and you don't have to run anything through a clerk of council. But if there's a clerk of council, we would say that's the proper place for council to pass things through. The lawyer would still have to do certain things, but we already have the lawyer doing the public records request and those kind of things. So, but if there was the clerk of council, we would suggest that everything would have to go through the clerk of council, because that's, other than if there was a change right now, some of that is set up to pass through the finance director / clerk of council. Right now, it's been my opinion that I was on council. I appreciated part of the benefit of being in a community like Perrysburg is you can call the utilities department, or if you want to talk to Alice, or if you want to talk to Bridget, we wouldn't have that layer. But at a certain point, there is very much some legitimacy to what Jonathan is saying, and if council believes that that's the time, now's the time to do that, that's okay. But we just need to kind of get moving on this, because we do have some kind of time constraints as far as getting somebody on board. And I do want to make sure Mary Jo is happy as much as possible. So that would be the council. The administration has no real recommendation other than we do need to get some guidance from council.
And I have a question, if council moves forward and wants to do this, then it's up to council to advertise for this position, interview for it, and everything? Is the administration get involved at all with any of that?
Clerk of council.
And then, get
We
us,
still need to have at least the HR division.
does the
just
HR
at least do
division,
the-
anyone?
We would certainly help in the HR department, but that would be another example of the clerk of council role as opposed to just working through HR.
Now, if we do nothing different, then the administration will just try to fill Mary Jo's spot.
Her spot cannot be filled. We will try.
Well, yeah, I know that's.
Thanks for teeing that up for me, though. So, yes.
But yes, to get us a new.
Yes, we will try and
That would all
we
be
would
on
advertise.
the administration.
And we would work with council to participate in that as well.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. So I see, I just was interested in the procedure.
I think I kind of view this as Well, clearly, we have an immediate need with trying to get this, the council recorder position filled. I agree with Jonathan. My perspective is this council recorder is going to be working, at these meetings, working pretty closely with council members. Mary Jo emails us quite frequently, for people that don't know that, with these minutes, making sure our reports are the way we like them. And I could see a new hire potentially blossoming into a clerk of council position if the fit is right. Right now, I'm kind of with Councilman McCarthy, where I don't see the need for a position by itself. I don't even know what I would use that person for at this point, because I have access to whatever I need access to, kind of like what Tom's saying. As the city grows, I could see a need for that to be there, but right now, I have access to the information I need to from the administration. If that were not the case, then I would, of course, be advocating for a clerk of council. So I guess I'm more focused on the council recorder position. I would say we should be, I know you threw out 18 to 23, I think we should be between 20 and 25. And also figure out whether this person's going to be expected to, I know right now Mary Jo comes to the meetings. I don't know if we have the technology to where someone can record the meeting and they can create minutes from those, what's required along that regard. But I would kind of like to see that plan first before moving forward with a full-fledged clerk of council.
I have to agree with Corey on that. I do like going straight to any department head here with a question. I would not like going through that other layer. And is that what you're saying, Jonathan? We would have to go through our clerk to get any answers from the
I don't know if I'm
administration?
saying that, but it sounds to me that would be, we would be.
Yeah, I think I would have a problem.
So that was going to be my question, because with every change, there's advantages and disadvantages. So I just wanted to clarify. So why would we be required to go through the clerk of council versus our current method?
That's what the job duties you described would do.
So that's an exclusive position?
Well, I would say, from the administration's point of view, you're hiring somebody who's paying them to do a duty, and we will not duplicate it. And the administration works for the administration, and council clerk would work for the clerk for council. And it would seem that the best, most consistent approach would be, why would you have a clerk of council if you're going to continue to talk directly to, let's just say, the planning and zoning office? At a certain point, I mean, I don't think it would be an absolute bar, but I think that there would be a process. Why would you have somebody who's paid to do open meeting sunshine laws when we have a law director who essentially is doing that for council and administration now? I mean, you would be just delegating duties, and the administration's position would be, if somebody's getting paid to do that, they should do it. And that would free, frankly, my law director to do other stuff that administration would want to have done. So I don't think, I didn't mean it as draconian, but I'm just saying that the duties are consistent with duties that clerk of council already does with what the law director does and what other people do. And so to avoid redundancy and inconsistency, if you have a clerk of council, why would you go to Brody if he's going to say go to the clerk of council? I mean, you're just.
And I understand your point, and I guess when this idea of a separate clerk of council was brought up, I was hoping we could come up with enough things for them to do, and we would justify the position and not have to give up the ability to talk to whomever. That, to me, that's a true negative. So that's why I wanted clarification on that. Now, I am struggling with, is there enough work for a clerk of council for this council, the size that we're at? You know, I'm not sure we have that. So
The administration's happy to keep talking about this, and this might be something that's a budget item that we.
Well, this isn't a permanent decision. I mean, it would be. It may well come back again some other day.
Well, as I mentioned before, this is Councilwoman Bourne. I'm fine with Amber doing the finance position and the clerk of council position. She's already been trained for both, and she's already here. Let's keep her in those roles.
we do have to replace our recorder. That's a no-brainer.
Right.
But I think it'd be remiss of us, considering the growth we've been experiencing and continue to experience, to not at least have this conversation, because I'm sure there'll be come a time when we will need it. I just think that's something to keep in mind.
Well, it sounds to me that at this point, we'll be looking at least getting that council recorder position open. I do believe that's something we should have in the back of our mind moving forward with this quicker council, especially as the city continues to grow and expand, and the size of the administration continues to grow and expand. We already know how difficult it is, especially in this land of the pandemic, with communication at times. But I think council recorder is something we should be looking forward to put out there. Do we have an idea of what the wage range should be going to put it out there? I'm assuming we would give them a 2-hour minimum anytime that they would show up to be here, whether they're here for 30 minutes or an hour, they would still get paid at least for 2 hours of work to make it worth their time. Any thoughts on wage ranges to put out there, what any expectation is?
I think the two of you have ranges that are pretty close, 18 to 23, 20 to 25. I think at that point, that's what Kelly does. You know, I think Kelly would have to take a look at, okay, what's the market for that, you know, that set of job responsibilities, what should the wage rate be?
We need some guidance from all of you for that.
We'd come to personnel and we'd
I'd hate to drag this out any further for Mary Jo's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah, the administration would like to get it posted.
Tomorrow.
I don't know why you couldn't start the meeting. I mean,
With 18 to 23, and if we need to go higher, we go up.
yeah, I mean,
Or 18 to 25.
18 to 25 and see who we get is,
Yeah.
I agree with Mr. McCarthy. I think 18 to 23 is very reasonable.
I think you all are going to have to vote.
So I guess what we'll have to do is, while we make a motion to go forward with it, council recorder, $18 to $25 per hour, with a minimum of a 2-hour pay for any time they come to the meetings.
Well, that's one thing I want clarification on, if I can get it. This person's job is going to be to help prepare these reports, right? Do they have any, and forgive me, Mary Jo, for not knowing exactly what your duties are here. I make fantastic reports. But is there something they have to do at the actual meeting? Or is that,
I don't understand what your question
is it something,
He's asking.
we are recording audio, we're
They work
recording
video.
video?
What if the recording didn't work? And
Yeah.
that person's not here taking notes? You have to have minutes of a public meeting, that's a law. If that recording for some reason didn't work, you have nothing. And
Aggressive.
you can't do
Okay,
that.
well, do we have audio, right?
It's all together. This
What
audio.
happens if it fails is what she's saying. You need someone to be
Yeah, if for
here.
some reason that
Well,
recording.
it'd be almost the same as not having a quorum. You can cancel the meeting.
No, you
But you
have
don't
to, by law, if you have a meeting, you have, the 3 people are here, and it doesn't, nobody's in the room.
Mr. Coleman, she's saying, what if you didn't know it didn't record?
Right.
So you got to the end of the meeting, assuming the
Meeting,
machines were working. Turns out they didn't
We also have
record.
another requirement that we're required to hold 2 council meetings every month. And if we were to cancel the council, we would have to immediately reschedule that as well. And again, how would we know that it didn't record until we're?
I guess from an administration point of view would be, technology is not so certain that you shouldn't have somebody present to make sure that the law is complied with.
Okay.
Having somebody here.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking the question, just so everyone is aware of
And
that.
apparently certain council members have really low voices that are not picked up on recorder very well.
Is that a hand I see up there, Jan?
Could be.
I do have a question, since I'm going to be the one who has to report this to Kelly. You said 2-hour minimum for appearing.
Correct.
Now, is it hourly then for the work they do outside a meeting? So if it takes them 30 minutes to draft minutes, they get paid for 30 minutes, or is it I'm just asking to make
In
sure.
the past, it has been 2-hour minimum for the attending of the meeting, and then time spent doing the work. That was my understanding.
I do as part of my job.
Yeah, oh yeah, but that's what it has been
Okay.
for past court.
So is that what we are?
Minimum 2
Okay.
hours.
For meetings, then time paid as spent doing the work.
think we're gonna
I
have
just
to-
wanted to clarify, so if Kelly asks me.
Which, that's pretty standard. Especially like union organizations, I think it would be.
Okay.
So I have a motion on the floor.
Mr. Smith needs a second.
Hold on, let's have a second, and then let's have further discussion. Second, all right, so let's have discussion on the motion that Jonathan has introduced. All right, so let's go this way, I guess.
Okay.
Give me,
Read it again, how it reads, Amber, if you would.
Okay.
no pressure for me.
Hiring the council recorder with a 2-hour minimum for meetings at $18 to $25 per hour.
Okay. All right, good. Cable sessions. Okay, one of my questions is this person going to have a desk here, computer here? And this is not pertinent, I still will be voting for this motion, but it's one of those things that
They're gonna have to have technology and that's.
We would have technology to get access to our file, to get access to our network, which is totally secure now because we have security is ransomware is such a big deal. They would have to probably be provided a computer and access by Gary for the purposes of their job. They could be performing a job on a computer, so the computer will be provided to them.
Okay. I guess the reason I'm asking that is, to me, the optics are bad. If we come here, we have a 10-minute committee meeting, we're paying 2 hours for that, and they have a desk right here, and the next day they come to the desk and they write out the minutes for that meeting and the report for that meeting. We're paying 3 hours for a 15-minute. That's the motive behind my question. So those things can probably be ironed out.
I would assume they would,
I would
after
say-
meetings, they would be stating to do this, because usually when it's fresh in your mind, but that's not.
I would also say in the past, Tim will recall, we have had several, Vivian and Jamie, that you're taking somebody to take out of their schedule and come here. Oftentimes meetings are, hopefully under 2 hours. Sometimes they end up being 2 hours when they think it's going to be the case. But because of the inconvenience, there's a factor that's a minimum that seems very fair to me. So I would think it would be fair to say that if you're going to take out your schedule on a night to come, you don't want to just be paid for half hour, an hour. You should be paid. That would be.
I don't think that's what he's asking.
No, I completely agree with that. I'm almost thinking of the language of you're going to get paid 2 hours minimum for attending a committee meeting and preparing the report or minutes with that meeting.
But sometimes their minutes are very long.
Right, and they would be compensated if they spend more time on it.
Well, it's your guys' motion, so that is.
Because the way I have the motion is to have 2 hours for any meetings. And if they do any additional time outside of that to actually prepare the meeting minutes or the council committee meeting minutes, that they are compensated justly for that as well.
Right here. Yeah, I do have one concern about this position, and maybe you've had these recorders in the past, and I'm thinking if it's someone, it's definitely part-time, and it's definitely going to be evenings, so someone that has this job is going to be making arrangements, could be babysitting arrangements and things like that, and many times, and just last month, we had 3 committee meetings get canceled. Now, I know you said they get 2 hours of show up. What about any compensation for canceling a meeting? Because, I'm just thinking, it's going to take a unique type of person to have this job. Say, you get it when we need you, but sometimes they're canceled. I've seen these meetings get canceled with short notice too.
Well, they have to be 24 hours.
So that's a great point, Jan. If we could at least give them 24 hours notice. If it gets canceled in within 24 hours, maybe they ought to get that 2 hours of show-up pay.
It has to be canceled within 24 hours per.
Maybe that's a problem. Wait till we get to
Yeah.
Let's try to get it posted first and
Right.
negotiate
Okay,
with it.
but that's the only concern I have with getting the right person that would want this job, and just, but knowing ahead of time, it might not be as many hours as you think it is.
Could be more.
Yeah, you have to be more to it.
I had no question.
I'm fine.
All right, let's, any other questions? We'll call the roll.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Duzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. And I do appreciate Councilman Smith's concerns about making sure that, provide, due to the city's business, that we make sure that council's adequately staffed, and there is a point where we're going to need to have some issues. I do appreciate the discussion on that.
Thank you, Mayor. That is the end of my report. We can actually get to the council meeting now, so.
Okay. Committee reports, finance.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Finance Committee did not meet, and so our next meeting is next Tuesday, July 13th at 5:30 PM.
Safety committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No report. Our next scheduled meeting is 27th, Tuesday of July, 6 p.m.
Thank you. Recreation.
I'm sorry. We were, I'm sorry.
I said, and as I just labeled it as scheduled.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Okay. Recreation.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the next Recreation Committee meeting is scheduled for July 13th at 6:30 p.m.
Planning and zoning.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're scheduled to meet on July 14, 2021 at 5:30 p.m., but that date is a question mark. Mark is correct. Cancellations sometimes occur, so there's some moving parts associated with that. We do have an ordinance, though, that I'd go ahead and introduce. That is, I'd like to introduce ordinance 38-2021 and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Duzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ordinance 38, 2021, an ordinance amending codified zoning ordinance 1215.58C of the City of Perrysburg zoning code to define water's edge.
I would then move that ordinance 838-2021 be passed.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Duzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
End of report.
Thank you very much. Personnel committee.
There is a report, and I will hand that over to Councilman McCarthy to report on since I was absent.
Yes, we met on June 22nd at 5:10 p.m. Also present were Bridget Cabot, Kate Sandretto, and Kelly Chalfant, our Human Resources Manager. The minutes of the May 20, 2021 meeting were approved. We then heard from Scott DeHart of Zashin and Rich, who appeared by Zoom to review the wage and compensation study prepared by his firm. He gave us the background on how they prepared the survey or the study, and they ended up proposing broad bands, each with minimum and maximum salaries. And then their sample of communities they looked at to design those bands were double contiguous counties and cities close to Perrysburg in demographics. He then went through the methodology used in the executive summary, using the deputy finance director as an example. Mr. Weber asked if the administration has had internal discussions about the study. Ms. Cabot said that there are 3 or 4 positions with more than a 30% differential of their counterparts, and the administration plans to meet with the mayor at some point to discuss these. But they would like the committee to move the ban concept on the city council. Finally, Ms. Cabot added that they may need action from city council on equity adjustments that are beyond what the mayor can approve. The current ordinance allows the mayor to vary up to 7%. Adjustments beyond that may be needed in some of those cases. So we'd also, as Gavin again said, they'd like to have language to maintain the bands with scheduled reviews in the future. And I think our understanding was that Kate, our law director, will be working on something for us to consider and then eventually present to council. We then spent the balance of the meeting talking about the clerk of council position that we just finished talking about. And then there had been discussion at the previous meeting about salaries for the mayor and council. That item was tabled, will be taken up for the next meeting. End of report, we have no legislation. Corey, you can tell us when we have.
Oh, next meeting is July 27th at 5 p.m.
Okay, this is where, Mr. Coleman, we've sent you an email asking if we could move that
Yes,
meeting.
we did. I think I-
Is it possible to move that meeting to July 20th? The Human Resources Director and the Law Director are not going to be available on the 27th, which will impact the wage study conversation, we think.
I cannot be there the 20th.
The 20th, 2-0.
That should work. 5 o'clock.
Other committee members, can they do the 20th at 5 o'clock? Okay,
Fine.
5 p.m. on the 20th, Tuesday the 20th.
yes. Okay, that being done, can we go back then to Mr. McCarthy, who would like to move planning and zoning to,
Well, you had, on the 27th, I think you had a safety committee meeting at 6.
Yes.
That can go
Yeah, well,
ahead, as far as you know.
We're lacking agenda items, that's why we're.
I think that we'll email everybody that one. We'll figure that one out at a different time. Okay, thank you. I appreciate the 20th.
Okay. Public utilities.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, as was just kind of mentioned, the clerk would be very helpful to. Glad to see some laughs. Nothing on the, no meeting here for public utilities. Our next scheduled meeting is going to be on July 28th at 6:30 p.m. That is all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Service committee?
We did not meet last month, but we did call a special meeting today at 6 p.m. to talk about 2 resolutions that we are recommending we send out to council. The first one is resolution, I would like to introduce resolution 42-2021 and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and time only and to dispense with the second, third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Duzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Resolution 42, 2021, a resolution authorizing the award of bid and agreement with American Roadway Logistics in an amount not to exceed $94,973.50 for the 2021 pavement marking project for the City of Perrysburg's Department of Public Service and declaring an emergency.
I do have discussion.
Well, hold on. Before you move, do you want to kind of explain why it was a special meeting today and why you did it today?
Then we move to pass.
I was going to let Oka explain. That's usually something before we move.
Yeah, it was.
We, if this passes, we have a limited time in which to sign the contract when the bids come in. And we were concerned that because the next city service meeting was outside, that may land us outside that time, we asked for the special meeting. So that's why we had the special meeting.
That's why there was a special meeting as opposed to waiting for the regular meeting.
Yes, that is the answer.
That's what I was trying to.
And I knew that.
Okay.
I just have a
Hold on. We need to have a motion to.
I move that resolution 42-2021 be passed in the emergency measure.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, on resolution 42, first thing I'd like to say is congratulations on the savings of $35,000 under budget, or 25% or 27% less. Also, is this final amount going to be spent on this?
Yes.
And you won't be asking for more money in the future on this one?
I would not like to commit to that because sometimes there are pandemics and crises and things happen that I cannot account for. We do not plan to ask for additional money on this project based on the specs that went out and the fact that this is not a construction project where we're purchasing steel or things like that. So, no, we do not plan to ask for additional monies on this project.
There also is, this is a pavement marking, this is not a construction contract, but there could be contingencies that would
Correct.
require.
That's why there are no contingencies in this. If that's sort of the heart of it, there are no contingencies because pavement marking is different than a construction project.
Pretty straightforward.
I just want to just make a comment since we had to speak beforehand and some of the council members weren't here. He knows exactly what I'm going to mention. And so, Jan, I do plan to vote for this. There's one concern I have with the type of paint that they use is this is similar to what's on Sandusky and the crosswalks. When I have run across them myself after a rain, while the pavement's still wet and the paint's still wet, it does become a little slick. So one of the things that was mentioned during the service committee is that they're going to look into making sure that the friction is still pretty solid in the wet environment, so pedestrians do not have any issues using the crosswalks. That's just the comment I just wanted to make.
This is thermal class.
Yeah. Thank you, Jan. I know you've done that.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yeah.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes. Second resolution I'm bringing before you, I would like to introduce Resolution 43-2021 and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only and dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Resolution 43, 2021, a resolution authorizing the award of the bid and agreement with Perrin Electric in an amount not to exceed $290,677 for the installation and purchase of traffic signals for the City of Perrysburg's Department of Public Service and declaring an emergency.
Discussion?
Yes.
Oops. Oh, we need a motion on that.
I gotta move, yeah. I move that Resolution 43-2021 be passed as emergency measure.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. On Perrin Electric, I would also like to compliment the administration on the savings of $49,000, and also that it was the lowest bid. And I also like to ask the same question asked before. You won't be asking for more money in the future, right?
That is, yes, it is the same answer, that there is no intention to ask for more, that there is no need for contingencies in a contract like this. I never want to say 100% there's suddenly a cave-in, we lose all the supply. I mean, I never want to give you a 100% I'll never be back, but no, the plan is to not ask for more money on this project.
The probability is pretty good, it should. Just replace it and upgrade it.
Any other discussion? With that, roll call?
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy? Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
That is all I have. The next service committee meeting is Wednesday, July 28th, at 5:30 p.m.
And just to be clear, this is another example of where the timing of the committee and the single council in August necessitated a special meeting. It's been our practice, and we hope to continue it, to make sure the administration brings things before the committee, plenty of time to discuss. So we appreciate the service committee's cooperation today. Any other business to come before the council?
Yes, I have some, Mr. Mayor. I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget any details, if you will. But I was told by a constituent that she recently attempted to access the city council video from June 15, 2021 on the city's website, and was able to not utilize it because it was marked private and inexcusable. And I'd like to know why this happened.
I actually can answer this.
I will just answer that.
Oh, okay.
We have asked the administration IT director as to that question, and maybe we need to do some clarification about it. It is public. It's how you download it. If you don't click on the button it doesn't convert it. So the person, as far as we know, sounds like they downloaded it, marked it as private, so they couldn't access it. And then, am I saying it correct?
You've got it backwards.
Oh, it's
So
public.
when we
Right.
upload the videos, it takes, there's a lag time, and the person who uploads the videos needs to go back in and make them public. That information has now been conveyed to all the individuals who upload videos, but that is why that happened. There was just, the person did not go back in and upload, change it, so.
So the mistake was on the administration.
We bel-
It was not the person.
Yeah, we believe that the mistake was on the administration's part, although but yes, we believe it's fixed and that this won't be a problem again.
And the other question I had, since June 15th, 2021 was about 3 weeks ago, apparently, as of today, you still could not access the minutes from that meeting.
They were approved today at City Council and will now be uploaded.
Right,
You can also possibly think about putting a disclaimer there until they are approved by council, and that might help the public a little bit.
We will talk about that, but I believe that because they're a reflection of the record as approved by council, the better practice is to wait till council actually approves them before they're placed, and inference could be incorrectly drawn by a resident that you're reading minutes that were actually approved by council, and that is not the case. It's better practice has been, in my experience, that you wait till council actually approves them and then you post them.
My concern would be just about the transparency aspect. And I know that we're all about that, so just like to make sure we stay on that.
We will make sure when the council's approved it, that they're uploaded.
I would prefer to have them be approved primarily if there is something incorrect or if this statement is quoted in there. We don't want to see that attributed to any council member up here incorrectly to the public until council has a chance to review and approve.
Yep,
I agree.
I agree.
Then I guess while we're talking about that, one question I do have for the administration, has there been any legwork in getting, do we video record the committee meetings as well? So
Yes.
same
Yes.
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 Are those going to start being offered on the website as well? Or is there some sort of?
They're not-
No.
They are not.
I was good.
I would like to see them on the website if we can handle that. I don't pretend to know anything about server space or anything like that, but if it's possible, I would like to see that.
We will have a discussion in the administration with IT and find out the answer to your question.
Perfect.
I would like to comment that it's not official record until we do approve them. So how someone could complain that there is no transparency is not true, because once they are approved, they're put out there and that makes us transparent.
We will look into that. We also, there's a timing question on that, but we'll talk about that.
Well, I think the fact that it had been about 3 weeks ago was the issue as well. That was brought to my attention. Why wasn't it up? The minutes up? Why wasn't the video up? So,
Well, the minutes aren't minutes till they're passed by council, so that's.
Correct.
right, but I'm just saying you could possibly put a disclaimer saying this is what happened 2 weeks ago.
We'll talk about it, but I think that the
Council hasn't met in the intervening.
Right, there's no way to pass it until council meets. And
That would never.
I mean, even if a member of the public is misquoted, I don't think it's anything that any of us would want on there till we all have a chance to
that
read it.
would be the best practice. Happy to talk to the resident if they so would like to discuss it. Any other comment or business report, council?
I do have a comment I'd like to make on a personal note. I got become a council member to leave a legacy of this place being better than when I came into it. And right now I'm faced with the question of whether to continue on council or because of the money it's going to cost me. And that's a sad state of our affairs, to punish people for what they're doing instead of making it possible for them to do stuff they love.
We're sorry. Any other business for council?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Any opposition to the motion? We have a second. Any opposition? If not, this council adjourned. Thanks, everyone.